Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday. This week, I'm taking a look at a roguelite that's just come out, at least as of this recording, Children of Morta. Developed by Dead Mage and published by 11-Bit Studios, it was released on Steam on September 3rd, 2019. Children of Morta bills itself as a story-driven action RPG and a roguelite. And if at first it's difficult to imagine a story-driven roguelike, then you're not alone. The procedural generation, however, mostly has to do with the level layout, enemies, and treasure placement, so once into the game it actually becomes understandable about how they combined a decent story with roguelike elements. In terms of plot, the game focuses around a family of guardians known as the Bergsons on an alien fantasy world. They live upon the mountain of Morta, and while going about their daily business, discover a strange corruption spreading through the wilderness. Their family lore tells of such a thing happening in the distant past, and so they begin to gear up to find the source of the corruption and keep it from spreading. After the introductory cutscene, and be prepared because there are a lot of cutscenes, you are just dropped into play and start the game with the first available character, John, the father of the family. From here, you can progress through the game, uncovering abilities and unlocking more and more of the game's functionality as you progress, in a series of extended tutorials that advance each run whether you succeed in that run or not. There are 6 playable characters in the game, each one a member of the Bergsons family, and each one with their own playstyle. For instance, the father is a sort of tanky warrior sort, his eldest daughter an archer, and one of his sons a rogue. Each character is unlocked in turn as the game progresses and may be selected independently in a 2-player game. Each character also maintains their own experience progression and skill tree. Experience is earned in the game by defeating enemies, and once you reach a certain total, you're given a skill point. After you're given the skill point, you may spend it on that character's skill trees, which aren't so much trees most of the time, but rather different skills scattered about into tiers, some of which may form trees, most of which don't. The skills can be passive boosts, specific activatable abilities, which operate on a cooldown timer, and so on. As you spend more skill points, you also unlock further tiers worth of skills. Each family member also has a family skill progression tied to these skills. Family skills don't require skill points to activate, but are automatically unlocked when totals of skill points are spent unlocking a new tier. Family skills automatically provide a bonus to all family members, so the game does encourage you to level up the various members of the family, rather than focusing on just one of them. Aside from skill points and family skills, there's a few other persistent improvement abilities in the game. During the game, you may uncover more of which function as a currency which allow you to buy upgrades. The 2 major upgrade allowances are the Ben's Workshop and the Book of Ray. Ben's Workshop allows you to upgrade the family's equipment. Now, each member of the family doesn't have individual equipment per se, besides the ones that make their inherent class abilities function. In essence, you really can't switch to different weapons or within armor on the same character. However, upgrading things in Ben's Workshop makes all of the family members more effective, essentially acting as a family-wide buff. Armor Up upgrades everyone's hit points, for instance, and Warfare upgrades their damage, and so on. The Book of Ray, by contrast, offers different meta buffs that don't generally affect a character's effectiveness in combat, but rather various aspects of the world and advancement in general. One upgrade may increase the amount of morve you gather, while another upgrades the amount of experience that you get, and so on and so forth. These, along with the storyline progression and unlocking various aspects of the game, provide you a long, overall progression in Children of Morta. However, there is also a progression that may take on a particular run. During a single run, characters can pick up various items, either from enemies, from treasure rooms, or from chests, or purchase them from the merchant after you rescue him. The most common items that drop from enemies are more of the upgrade currency and health potions, which occasionally may be picked up to heal on the spot. Aside from these, occasional gemstones may drop or be picked up from corpses. Gemstones may be used as both keys and as a currency during a run. Unlocking some chests, although not all, may require a gemstone, and the merchant sells items for various quantities of gemstones. Other items that can be picked up during a run provide some degree of what might be covered by equipment customization in other games. There's Divine Graces, which are automatically equipped when you pick them up and provide a static flat bonus. Divine Relics, which you can have one of and which are activatable items that have a cooldown. And then Charms, which you can also only have one of, that can be used once for an effect and are thus consumed. Characters may also encounter obelisks that, once unlocked during an event, will provide static bonuses when they're activated, possibly with a duration before they expire. This can make for a fair variety of things that can buff a character on a particular run and allow some degree of customization, but alas, they only last for that one run. After having been encountered, however, they are entered into your codex so you can look up information on them in the future. During any particular run, characters have the ability to move in any direction, make a basic attack in another direction independently, as well as have an evasion ability that allows them to leap out of the way. This evasion ability is on a cooldown bar, and different characters can have different numbers of times they can evade during a single evasion bar, with quicker characters being able to evade more often than others. Characters may also, as mentioned, acquire skills that can be activated, use charms and relics, and so on. Each character also has a number of basic statistics. These include health, primary weapon damage, critical chance, critical damage multiplier, dodge chance, used for passive dodges, not active evades, movement speed, family rage gain, resilience, family luck, and experience gain, some of which are simple percentages. There's also the effects of the various family skills that may be unlocked by particular family members. So, combat generally involves maneuvering around rooms, though randomly generated traps may be scattered throughout, while groups of enemies come at you from everywhere. Attack and defend to survive, and you'll get the drift. There are a fair number of enemies of different strengths and attack routines, which makes for some fairly challenging, if somewhat standard action roguelike gaming in this regard. However, it is well executed, and hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Occasionally, you're encountering some gold outlined enemies that are tougher and have additional powers, which drop much more loot than normal enemies. There's also bosses at the end of chapters, which provide scripted boss encounter areas that are challenging in and of their own right. During play, the map may also generate treasure rooms and event rooms, which may range from combat to quests, such as escort quests, to puzzle rooms, where you can unlock a treasure item by solving a puzzle. These puzzle rooms may range from the completely arbitrary, where you just guess between three options, to mini-games, such as a memory game that summons monsters when you mess up, or even a mini-game of Pong. They're varied enough to break things up a bit in that regard, although you will quickly see pretty much everything that's on offer. Where the game really shines is in its presentation and writing. Children of Morta has a really solid story, one which reflects the relationships of the characters involved, and shows how they develop, how they care for one another, and are impacted by each other's often off-screen decisions. I honestly am really surprised and really pleased by this, and the fact that it is backed up by actual gameplay mechanics, whereas the individual family members become stronger, they benefit the family as a whole, is really just a bonus. I was concerned when I first heard of the game that this would seem kind of gimmicky, but it's actually executed in such a manner that it really does reinforce the theme of the game, and one that I've found myself connecting more and more with the personalities of these characters, rather than in the generic characters of another roguelike. Now, I know a few people don't like roguelikes simply because those people feel that roguelikes are lazy, and they feel that procedural generation takes away from the storyline, and I have to say that Children of Morta, it feels a lot less like a roguelike with a good story and more like a really solid handcrafted RPG in which the challenges are just procedurally generated between story elements. I think it's well done overall in getting that kind of balance. The graphics are a sort of pixel art style, but one which has genuine artistic presentation and excellent animation. If you've played games like Hyperlight Drifter or Moonlighter, then you may well find this art style familiar. In terms of thematics, it has a kind of almost sci-fi fantasy feel where you've got monsters in the wilderness built over a kind of weird ruin aesthetic and what looks like long-buried machinery poking out here and there of the ground, as well as distant vistas of alien landscapes that become visible from time to time, which your characters will actually pause and look at. Finally, the musical score is excellent, atmospheric, and yet not overbearing. It's one of the better scores that I've heard for a while in an indie game, although I'm not sure I'd classify it as any sort of catchy kind of thing. While it does reinforce the game's mood, I'm not sure I'll ever really be looking up any of the tracks for, covers or remixes of things like I do on other games. I do have a few complaints. First of all, it is a keyboard and mouse combo game. Now, supposedly there is controller support, but I couldn't get mine working properly with it, even with the Steam controller setup supposedly working. And that's alright, because the mouse and keyboard work well enough, I guess. The combat can be a little, I'm not sure what the term is, I guess twitchy might be the right word, There is evasion and defense skills, and some characters have block skills and the like, but most of the time I found it way more effective to just hammer away at attacks while kiting enemies around, and I'm not sure if that was the feel that they were going for. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not the feel they were going for, but it was the best thing I could get to working on this. The screen is just a little bit too busy sometimes with the amount of admittedly beautifully animated enemies that can swarm you, which can make timing dodges and the like a real pain. This doesn't make things more difficult per se, it just changes the nature of the combat from what I was expecting. Overall, however, I highly recommend Children of Morta, and it's not just for people who like roguelikes. Indeed, people who enjoy roguelikes may find it a little bit too simplistic on that front. But if you can handle roguelites and appreciate a storyline that seems to break down from the norm on such games, then you're probably going to enjoy this one. I suppose it doesn't hurt that the whole family of adventurers style thing gave me vibes of the old Legacy of the Wizard game from NES days. Anyway, I'll wrap it up at that. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Children of Morta. As always, I'll leave a link to where you can get the game in the description below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye. Oh, my birds.